I just want to acknowledge the fact that we are gathering on unceded Gadigal land. I cannot stress that enough. When I stand here, I feel really overwhelmed at just thinking about one of the major injustices here, one of the first in this area. You know, I acknowledge the thousands of years old swamplands and waterways that were destroyed in the first years of colonisation. These are waterways that have evolved over eons that were destroyed within the first 5 years of the colonists landing here in 1788. This place here is actually a very extensive swampland, traditionally. And I really kind of want to point out how swamplands in and around Sydney have been historically and famously destroyed in order to build this city. Swamplands are a very important feature of a natural landscape. I don't need to go into that. I have worked for a very long time researching this community. I was born in this community. I was literally born and lived up around the corner. This is the first street I've ever lived in. I was brought home to this street. My family often talk about, you know, those memories of living in John Street and the community that existed at that time. You know, you couldn't even come down here or go up the top of the hill without somebody else reporting back to mum and dad. So, you know, I don't see that sense of community anymore.
You got a beautiful father, Laura Monroe. That's a beautiful father.
Yeah, they're both pretty deadly. So my parents moved here in the 70s, escaping the concentration camps of the missions and reserves. They come to Sydney because of the black presence. They come to Sydney because this place had the highest population of Aboriginal people anywhere in the country. That population has since been moved out to Western Sydney and to the Central Coast. And that has been because of a process of gentrification. Now, if anyone's listened to the Survival Guide, they would know, you know, a lot of my work is really around trying to get people to understand gentrification is just the new wave of colonisation. You know, my favourite quote from my co-host Joel Sherwood Spring was, "Your flat white has a black history." And I think that just speaks to the type of colonisation that we're currently living in. My parents moved here because of that black presence. The numbers were somewhere up to like 40,000 Aboriginal people living in just this area alone. A lot of my work is really around trying to get people to understand that as of the last census, there is only 300 Aboriginal people left in this community. This is the birthplace of the most successful genocidal tactics that have ever been seen in this country. And it's still evolving, and it's been very, very successful in this community. People really need to look at the historical context of that and why it's so important for this Aboriginal community to be able to retain presence in this area. If we are not able to retain presence in this area, those initial genocidal tactics of 1788 have been successful. They've worked. So the stakes are very high for us. I appreciate everyone coming out supporting. It's always good to see people supporting. It's always good seeing these communities unite that are under threat. And, you know, I just want people to remember